Hi Tea Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out some more Vinland Saga, and we got into some intense stuff with the last one. I honestly don't know how Thorfinn and Eianar's friendship or relationship of any kind is going to develop after this. I feel like an attempted murder is a little bit of a difficult thing to recover from in terms of building up a relationship between them. I'm not entirely sure where we're going to go with that, but it's such a complex relationship between the two of them anyway, given that Thorfinn was obviously on the side of Denmark and Einar is North English, and the fact that there's like all of this history between the cultures and peoples that they come from in opposition to each other, and just their natures in general, which I talked about in my last reaction of how Einar was raised in a culture or a group of people that were very compassionate and caring and looking out for each other, whereas Thorfinn, in the early days, yes, but the majority of what he remembers is being with Askeladd and his group and the constant need to be fighting and people trying to hurt him or attack him and needing to deal with that as someone who was like 5 or 6 years old, right? That's very different in the way that they interact with the world. So I don't really know what's going to happen. We have Thorfinn seeing that he does actually want to survive, and he has that survival instinct is still there with his brief confrontation with Snake. It reminded him a lot of Askeladd, so we'll see how that kind of develops now that he can't just go back to his apathetic, uninterested state that he had before. So let's just get into the episode. In 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, we're starting with the opener. Okay. Kind of go either way of when that's gonna appear in it. I love the art style so much. And I was thinking of this, isn't the first series Wit Studio? And then in this series, it's Mappa. So that could explain some of the change in how they're doing the storytelling. I think it also lends very well to the fact that just the type of story is different, right? Like, at least for right now, it doesn't have the same vibe as the beginning of season 1, so it makes it a little bit easier to get into those different art styles. Oh yeah, we had Canute in the last episode too, briefly showing. I wonder how he's going to get reintroduced, like if we're gonna follow him like kind of doing his own story and then eventually he crosses over with maybe Thorfinn. Not sure. Path of Blood is ominous. Are we going to be catching up with Canute in this episode? Because this feels more like soldiers and stuff, which isn't really the farming slice of life that we had before. Looks like we are, because I'm pretty sure that's our boy. Ooh. The like crows. Flashback, maybe? He looks a lot younger, like he did in series 4. I mean, season 1. Oh, are we replaying? Yeah. This was intense. I love the shadows on his face there. He was. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're in a position of power, which is, I think, is what making them the most scared, right? Ugh, still like the going through that the first time, just being like, holy, like I bet you do. I mean, the fact that we had like the crows, which are literally like a group of crows, is a murder, and then that flashback, and like not seeing his face, so we don't get to see what he thinks while remembering that. Like we see his face fully when he's in like the flashback, but we don't see what it's like in remembering it now that it's in the past a bit and he's grown since then. I guess it would really, like, people are gonna kind of smell blood in the water, right? With not only a murdered king, but a very young king taking his place. Poor puppy. I don't think there's gonna be mercy. Yeah, definitely doesn't have the same naivete that he did series one when we were introduced to him. At least there's some awareness. Quite a unmerciful uh pledge there, but I mean, at least he's has conviction. Hello again. Love the way the background moved behind him. Do you? I bet he probably wants to be very aware of what's going on, given that he doesn't. I don't think he trusts anyone in his command. Thorkel. It's nice to know he's still as chaotic as ever. Some things never change. I was gonna say, frogs? When did that become a thing? Uh, so since they stopped before like the official end of a fight, he's mad. I don't think he's like a big picture kind of person. I think he's like, what is happening immediately around me? He certainly changed a lot. I mean, perhaps, but he does have like a different air to him. I mean, I kind of get it. He's like, he has a point. He might not be the most tactful about it, but I think Canute also sees himself as like not quite like still developing as the person he wants to be. He's still trying to figure out how to get there. I don't think he wants gold or treasures. I don't like that look. But like taking on, I guess, the ruler facade that he needs to be in that particular situation, but like I know that riches isn't why he's there. It's about like power and having his kingdom, right? Possibly stopping conflict, which if he was the controller of all of these different lands, all these different peoples, then he would be able to stop a lot more. Like, at least it wouldn't be like full out war. He'd be able to manage the conflicts more. But I don't really know what his like plan is, right? Because we haven't checked in with him for a while. So I don't know what kind of person he's grown into after the end of the last series. Yeah. See, I'm like his own territory. I'm like, it's about the territory, the land, the people, not the wealth. I'm sure it's a good point to be like, okay, if you aren't seeing me as king, you're seeing this other person as king. Did you talk to him about this before doing it? Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like Canute does have a lot of like work to do to just like prove himself as like not a child, but also because of his appearance, needing to prove that he has like fits into like the warrior culture, right? Like I don't think many people would look at his face and be like, "Oh, he's like cutthroat." Yes. I don't like the ominous nature of that statement. We're going to see the heads. Signal of some kind? That's what I was wondering. Who are we signaling? And for what? An ally? I mean, Thorkel's not there. Okay, we have multiple. Is it a way of showing that they already own the land? Oh. I was gonna say, I'm like, are they signal fires or are they like setting fire to different villages or like important parts of the land? I think it's so fascinating to have the symbolism of the fire with him, especially since uh we've had images of water with Aenard. So then contrast that with the fire with Canute. So now there's only one king. Oh, okay. We still have another one, I guess. Two young potential kings. Mm-hmm. So we're down another one. Such a difficult relationship between Thorkel and Canute. Like simultaneously a mutual respect and also like this strange like challenge between them, right? Love the shading on his face of like half light, half dark, which is interesting. Interesting to have a focus on Canute for that one, to have a catch up of what he's been doing. I think also a time skip, because I think that when we met up with Canute again at the beginning of this, what was it, 1014 was the same time probably as Thorfinn at the farm, and then we have a time skip now for 4 years. So I'm assuming when we go back to Thorfinn and the farm, it's going to have also been 4 years, which will be interesting to see how he's developed. I like that even though narratively we need like some stuff to progress faster, but it's showing that this is a slow progression. And even going through all the stuff that Canute accomplished, it was like he had to spend years and years trying to get the throne. It wasn't like he spent a matter of months or even a year. It was like, even though they were talking about how his father took a while to conquer the territory, it still took years for Canute to get to where he is. So I like having that baked in, right, to the story of, even though we can't spend years going through all of the different details of like how he progressed to the throne, we still want to acknowledge that it wasn't something that just happened overnight. And I think it's interesting to see him in that role, because we saw when he was younger a much more damaged, quiet, unsure of himself person, and then to see him in this where he is very confident, very steadfast in what he's saying, like very has a lot of conviction in what he's saying, even though there is a brutality to his actions. He knows that he wants to get to the throne, he wants to be the king and have all of this land and territory underneath his control, and any means to get there, he's going to take it, right? And I love having the fire imagery with him, because fire has so many different meanings behind it. And I think for someone who is very stoic in the way that they present themselves to the world, having fire as this symbolic thing to him is very interesting, because fire is, we talk about it in connection to passion and energy and creativity. It creates light and warmth and allows for so many different creations within society. Human society as we know it stems back to the fact that we figured out how fire works and how to utilize that, right? But at the same time, it does destroy, it's chaotic, it's difficult to control when it gets out of hand. And him saying, I will either be in control of this land or I will reduce it to ash. There are only two options. It's not like I'm going to just walk away and leave it in control of someone else. Those are your options. Pick wisely. And he's like, I don't care if it becomes ash or not. I will rule over the ashes if that's what happens. It's very interesting to have that imagery with him, and especially in comparison to his more quiet, again, stoic way of interacting with people, to have this very sinister, brutal conviction underneath all of it, that you're just like, I don't know what to do with this person who is so unshakable and yet is so willing to do these things that are awful and would make anyone else hesitate in making those decisions, and he just doesn't. He knows exactly what he wants and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get there. So it's just fascinating to see his development from what he was like in series 1, and curious to see where we end up going with that now that he's king. And I assume that we're going to go back to Thorfinn and the farm at some point with a time skip and see where that's going. I'm interested to see the crossover, like when their two paths merge again, and how much we're going to see of that. If there's going to be more story with Canute doing his thing and Thorfinn doing his thing, and then maybe at some point their paths will cross, or if it's going to be more about their actions influencing each other. Obviously, anything that the king does is going to affect everyone else, so Thorfinn is going to be affected by whatever Canute decides to do. But like, I'm interested to see how the stories will interweave with each other and how they will see each other again. But we'll have to wait and see. But I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this place to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so next time I post a Vinland Saga reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.